rolling through the sand like a thought in disguise. The scarab spins truth where the cosmos collide. Energy whispers, it never says goodbye. The Beatles crawl, the Beatles rise.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Sort of burst the chaos, yet the chaos rise. My name Beatles, 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 over and over. Spinning the world in the grip of their shoulders. Beatles, 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 under and over. Rolling through time till the blackness is sober. The heat fades lower, the order begins. The stillness so perfect, it hums from within. The void sings softly, entropy takes a bow. In the shadow of silence, the scarab knows how. The second law is dancing, feeding life through decay. The third law holds the promise that the stillness will stay. Beatles, 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 under and over. Rolling through time till the blackness is sober.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Shout out to the family. Hey, Jalen said I need to create my own slang. What you said? Create my own lingo. Now, what does that mean? Everybody watching the video, if Jalen say that I need to create my own lingo, what does that tell me about Jalen's? Come on. Somebody. Is anybody in the chat awake? If Jalen says that I need to create my own lingo, what does that mean about Jalen's? I'm going to just wait till somebody. I'm going to just wait till somebody. I'm going to just wait till somebody give the answer. Nope. That does not mean that. And we always assumed Jay Lenz was a man. That might be incorrect. Z just said she. So that's interesting. We always assumed Jay Lenz was a guy. That is a bad assumption and a bad way to start off 2026, right? So Jay Lenz, definitely feel free to correct us. But that does not mean that the person is paying attention to the content. Or maybe you know what? Maybe you could be correct. Maybe you could be correct. Maybe they are paying attention to the content partially. No. Don't be sorry, because we assumed that it was a guy and you assume that it's a lady. That's just perspective. That's POV, right? So Jay Lenz could probably straighten us out on that. Yeah, no reason to apologize at all. But no, what I'm saying is if Jay Lenz is saying I need to create my own lingo, what that means is Jay Lenz does not read the books. That means Jay Lenz does not read the books. I have personally failed Jay Lenz. I have not intrigued Jay Lenz enough to invest some time and money into the books. Somehow I have failed in my communication with Jay Lenz. That's what I have to assume. Because we literally are swimming. We are literally swimming in lingo. Yes, we're swimming in lingo. We are swimming. I'm doing the backstroke in lingo. I have whole books. I actually have lingo books. Yo, shout out to Jay Lenz though. Shout out to Jay Lenz for starting off the show right. Shout out to Jay Lenz for starting out the show right with some high energy. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the sentiment. Jay Lenz is saying that, you know, from what Jay Lenz is receiving through the videos, it's so good, it's so powerful. We need to create our own lingo. Jay Lenz, I definitely appreciate that. Just trolling you a little bit. But you need to go ahead and hit Amazon. You need to get some of these books. In fact, let's just do this as a special request for Jay Lenz. Special request for Jay Lenz.
In the beginning was the wave.
Resonate, see what I'm saying, levitate, resonate, nah, I mean I'm trying to elevate, resonate, words can't describe or articulate, resonate, feel me, celebrate. When they was partying and they was drinking, the gospel of music had me right and thinking, music is sounds but it's also written words. Lego knows fifths, halves, quarters, thirds. The periodic table of atoms. The language of the gods and wave patterns. The periodic table of atoms. E equals MC squared. The musical wave patterns. The facts are late. Synapse engaged. Perhaps a slave. Collapse away. The heart detonate. The tongue generate. The stone demonstrate. The mind meditate. Honestly, honor me for escaping poverty, turning lemons to lemonade, noise into harmony, awfully. God is the music of my artery, the heart of me, the beat is the best part of me. God is the way, God is the music, God is the music. Without it, I might lose it. God is the way, God is the music. Without God, I might lose it. I might lose it. Resonate. See what I'm saying? I mean I'm trying to elevate. Resonate. Words can't describe or articulate. Feel me, celebrate. My thoughts don't make sounds, but I can still hear them. Periodic table waves to the EnQi theorem. You never seen God, but you fear him. My thoughts don't make sounds, but I can still hear them. My thoughts don't make sounds, but I can still hear them. I don't know, understand the love words, but I feel them. My heart wild, my heart savage. That's why it's so easy to love bad habits. They block pain like perks. The music alkaline below 20 hertz. I can feel it in my bones. He's so electric, we so electric. He gon' respect it. When they was partying and they was drinking, the gospel of music had me right and thinking. Sounds, but it's also written words. Lego knows fifths, halves, quarters, thirds.
In the beginning was the wave.
Periodic table of atoms. The language of the gods and wave patterns. The periodic table
Share the video, hit the like, subscribe, Cash App, Super Chat, AmericanHealer.website, Amazon.
Jay Lynn's like, hold up, I got every single Dr. EnQi book he ever released. That is not what Jay Lynn said. All right, so today we're going to probably have a busy day, though. So I hope y'all ready. I hope y'all ready. All right. So I wanted to at least talk about the crackhead effect before we get to some other classes. So we're going to have to skip around in the books because today is Monday. It's officially back to class day. So after this video, we will be jumping back into Black's anatomy, etc., etc., etc. Melanin is anabolic. You name it. But I did want to just touch the crackhead effect, aka the dope fiend effect, aka I see me looking around. I mean, I'm looking for a book. The Dope Game Part 2. So this is its own book, which is actually the part two of another book. Which obviously I cannot find right now. But this is part 2 of a book, right? The Dope Game book. There's the original. I'm not even sure if the original might be out of print. The original might be out of print. So to do a deeper dive into dopamine and neuromelanin, you want to get this book. And in this book, we talk a lot about vitamin E and batana oil, right? We talk a lot about vitamin E and batana oil. But sometimes, like I said, when I'm writing a book, there's stuff that I come across in the research that doesn't fit the narrative or the storyline or the focus of the book, right? So when I was putting together the neuromelanin disease theory, aka the dopamine book, I was primarily focused on like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and dementia. Mainly dementia, right? Mainly dementia, with caveats of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, right? So there's certain things that I really couldn't get into in that book. And over time, y'all heard me talk about, not being able to fully get into subjects that I wanted to dive into with the family. And now we kind of are moving in that space. So the plant genetics book, I haven't really delved much into it yet, only because I'm waiting for mines to come, right? I'm waiting for mines to come in the mail. I'm waiting for a few books actually to come in the mail, right? But like I said, in terms of the Desire book, aka the love book, the aura book, the vibe book, right? There's a few parts. Hey, listen, this is the beauty. This is the beauty though, right? Because there's people that be stealing the swag, getting rich. And they be like, yo, why you not rich? Why you still struggling? And I'm looking at them like, cause you stealing. Cause you stealing. Right? You know what I'm saying? But the beauty is, all jokes aside, the beauty is that we are doing the work of the ancestors. We're doing God's work, you know, and the books are out. That is the one thing that I wish I had, you know, access to much earlier on, but we have it now. So, you know, we've been putting the books out, and the books create the record. The books create the record. So at this point, they're doing blind promo, running scared. And this is here's the reason why I have to deal with a lot of gatekeepers, invisible gatekeepers, because I have so many people that are invisible, watching the content, remixing it, doing their own thing with it, that any channels that they're influential in, they make sure those channels' doors stay closed to me, because soon as I pop up in those spaces, whatever they got going on, they feel like whatever they got going on would be diminished. And that's actually the opposite of the truth, right? If the plugs show up, things see, this is the part of dealing with lames or goofballs. They don't really understand what the plug brings to the table, right? If you doing something, and let's say, for instance, you doing something in Detroit and your plug is in Cali, right? If your plug decided to relocate from Cali to Detroit, that will only make whatever you got going on go through the roof. Your plug is right here now. Everything is going to be faster, bigger, and better. These guys don't think that way. They don't. They moving backwards. So we're good. We're working on the unseen now. We've spent the majority of our books and our time working on flesh and working on matter, and now we are getting into the space where we're slowly ascending, leaving the flesh and the matter, and we're going into the unseen pocket, right? And this is the door we started to open. I want to say, well, we kind of been discussing certain things, but I want to say August, we formally opened up the doorway, because we was having some conversation, and then I pulled out the conversion rate for light and sound, right? The conversion rate for light and sound. And I think when I pulled that out, that started to open up people's minds a little bit to really understand seen versus unseen, right? Our eyes only we only convert, less than 1% of all light into information and images, with our eyes. Less than 1% of sound we convert with our ears. So largely, we're only able to see, right? We're only able to see, quote unquote, less than 1% of what exists, right? 99% of everything else is in the energy information space. It's in the energy and information space. Not weird, not mystical, not in the chakra space, you know what I'm saying? Not in the, Christmas, Super Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, but just energy, information, right? And so the more you learn, the more you can see, the more you can hear, the more we can comprehend, the more we can process, right? So I think we're making good progress in terms of what we got going on. Hey, I appreciate it. Listen, right now, I'm happy to be on HJ channel, Sas channel, you know what I'm saying? I don't think it's a matter of getting onto specific channels as much as, just any channel. Like, I don't want people to, you know what I'm saying? Because somebody might be watching now and they may have a channel that has 1,000 subscribers or 5,000 or 10,000, be like, oh, well, I could have been got you on this channel, but I didn't think that was enough, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care. I'll come talk to your 5 people or somebody else's 5 million people. You know what I'm saying? That's the same as it used to be when we was on a lecture circuit. When we was on a lecture circuit, you might come into a place and speak, and it'd be like 11 people there. You know what I'm saying? But those 11 people might put you somewhere else. So I've spoken to, small rooms where some people would be disappointed, like, because you come and then barely nobody show up. It'd be like 10 people in there. But one of those people might be the liaison for this college. That's happened to me a few times. And then from that, I can't even call it a lecture. From that event, boom, now you're in front of 100 people or 150 people or whatever the case may be. Or now you're in a room full of doctors or whatever the case may be. So I don't, over time I've learned not to be choosy. And I never really was anyway. I'm from the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm from the Bronx. We get busy wherever we can get busy, we get busy. Yeah, wherever we can get busy, we get busy. Yeah, because even if it's an audience of 1, that might just mean that one person I'm supposed to that one person did something in their life to situate themselves in front of me somehow. So this might not have anything to do with me. You know what I'm saying? This might be God's, or some ancestors paying off, who knows, some other, you know what I'm saying? I might just be a tool in that moment. So it's all good. It's all love. All right. So let's try to get through some of this book so we can get to some key pieces before we get back to classes. All right. And we'll still dig into these books, but today we have to return. We've been away from our studies for a minute. Right? All right. So dopamine, expectation, and the confusion between pleasure and love. This is important. Pleasure can occur with dopamine, but dopamine's primary role is drive, not enjoyment. This distinction clears up decades of confusion about addiction, motivation, and relationships. Dopamine does not ask, do you like this? It asks, do you want this again? Now, remember, whenever you hear anybody, anywhere, right? Not just me. Whenever you hear me discuss it, whenever you hear anybody, your doctor, a guy at the supermarket, the pilot on the airplane, a homeless guy asking, whenever you hear anybody talking about dopamine, they're talking about neuromelanin, right? They're talking about neuromelanin, right? So keep this in mind when we get back to class, which will probably be the first class after this video. Our next video will probably be Okay, because I'm probably gonna need that. I'm probably need my book. Or I'll find it. I will find it. Right? All right, it's somewhere around here. Oh, that's right. I already got it in my stack, right? Especially when we go back to melanin is anabolic, right? And we start discussing the melanin system as the anabolic system, right? I don't know how I didn't put this in my top 3 the other day. See, if we do top 3 books, this is going in my number 1 book. This is number 1. This is going in my number 1 slot today. Yeah, we do top 3 books today. This is my number 1. This is my number 1. Just because of how organized it is. Yeah, just because of how organized it is. Like if we did top 3 books today, my top 3 books would be Melanin is Anabolic, Nefer is Irreducible Complexity, and the first Black's Anatomy book. Actually, one of those books got to get bumped because Melanin versus Diabetes book 1 is always in my top 3. That is the number 1. Yeah, so I don't know, one of those books. Anyway, see how distracted I get? See how distracted I get? Anyway, I just wanted to make that note, that quick mental note, so you know, anytime you hear dopamine as a topic, whether it comes up in a discussion about love, addiction, alcohol abuse, substance abuse, Alzheimer's, memory, focus, getting in the zone so you can hit 3-pointers like Steph Curry or whatever, Lamar Peters or Uncle School, whatever you got going on. When you hear dopamine, that is a neuromelanin discussion. All right. It does not measure satisfaction. It measures salience. It marks something as important enough to pursue, repeat, prioritize. Right? What does that sound like? That is desire. Right? This is why addictive behaviors often continue long after the pleasure fades. The system is not chasing joy, it's chasing expectation. The wave of anticipation becomes more powerful than the experience itself. The wave of anticipation becomes more powerful than experience itself. In fact, the experience can degrade or even become painful while the drive remains intact to continue chasing that experience. This is not a paradox. This is how dopamine works, right? This is how addiction works. This is how love works. This is how exercise works. This is how business works. This is how sports works. People do not fall into relational turmoil because they are foolish or weak. They fall into it because good feelings create drive, and drive, when misinterpreted as the truth, creates expectation. Once expectations harden, the system begins to chase a future state that may never structurally be possible. To understand this, we have to separate 3 things that are constantly collapsed into one word: pleasure, feeling, and motivation. Pleasure is a momentary state of positive sensation. Feeling is the body's interpretation of energetic coherence. Motivation is the orientation of behavior toward repetition. Dopamine is not responsible for pleasure itself. It is responsible for assigning motivational weight to whatever coincides with pleasure, whatever coincides with relief, whatever coincides with novelty, with intimacy, with emotional intensity. Dopamine says, this mattered. Let's add it to our algorithm, right? Let's create a program around this. Let's create some mental programming so that we can continue to move towards this again and again and again and again. This is why dopamine spikes most strongly before reward, not during the reward. Again, this is why dopamine spikes most strongly before the reward, not during the reward. Anticipation, desire, not fulfillment, is the peak dopaminergic state. The system lights up in advance, creating a hunger that pulls behavior forward. When fulfillment arrives, dopamine often drops. The wanting fades until the next cue appears. Now, anybody who's ever tried to quit, say quit smoking cigarettes, right? Say quit smoking weed. Say quit drinking beer. Say quit drinking liquor. All of those are 4 good things. Not good things for you to have. But those are 4 good examples. Almost straight across the board. I'm not going to say that these type of people do not exist. I'm just going to say I've never met any, nor am I one myself. I have never met anybody who says it's easier to quit smoking cigarettes when they do not have any cigarettes. Almost everybody I know, it's easier for them, not almost, everybody I know who has successfully quit a vice, it has been easier for them to quit the vice while having access to the vice. It's easier to quit when you have access to the substance. I know people who've been through experiences where they've been fiending for something, whether that's a cigarette, a joint, a blunt, a bong, a beer, a shot of liquor, whatever that is. And they've been driving themselves crazy to go get the means to go get that item. And when they get that item, whew, they feel like a whole sense of relief come over them. They good. You good. You don't even got to smoke it. You just needed to have it. You just needed to know that when you want it, you can have it. It's there. So most of the people that I have successfully helped kick habits, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes people hit me up for one-on-one with kicking habits. It's I don't do like the methadone clinic, or like, you know, like they send you to a rehab place and they lock you in a room and you locked away from having access to whatever. Because for me, that's not successful long term. That's not successful long term, because usually when people get out of these places where they like spend 2 weeks in the mountain or something, when they come out of there, they just go back to doing what they was doing slowly but surely, because none of the real-time stressors, triggers, you know, access, none of those things that exist in their actual world are in that desert or mountain retreat. So it's cool to be up there and kind of hold hands and meditate and go swimming or whatever and, you know, eat some fruit. But when you get back and the real world hit, boom. Now you're dealing with that cortisol flash. You're dealing with that dopamine deprivation, and you're dealing with. So it's always best to figure out what you have to figure out in real time, even if it means you have to try and fail a few times before you can create some steady progress, right? But even in the act of trying and failing, that is steady progress, right? That is steady progress, trying and failing. My dad taught me when I was young, he said, you can always go get you some $3 education. Never understood what $3 education was until I got old enough. And then he sat me down and he said, you know, he explained to me what $3 education was. Back in the days in the bars in the neighborhood, you could buy a shot of liquor, you know, for $3. He said, you can go to the bar and there's always a wino or a drunk, somebody there, an old guy that can't afford a shot, but he buys enough drinks that they don't kick him out, right? So go there, buy him a drink, ask him a question. You buy him a drink, you ask him a question, he's going to talk to you probably until the place closes. $3 education. And don't think because he's homeless or he's a wino or whatever that he doesn't have anything intelligent to tell you, because if he's 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, he has 40, 50, 60, 70 years worth of experience. And even if his experience is all based in failure or loss, that is a wealth of experience which you can learn in reverse what not to do. He said, so you can go get you a $3 education at any time. And I experimented with a couple of $3 educations. You know what I'm saying? If you think a $3 education is bad, woo, a $6 education or a $9 education. Right. Well, I don't know now. I don't know. I don't think you could get a shot in a bar probably for $3 anymore. A shot is probably like 6, 7, 8. I don't know what a shot is. I don't know what a shot is. You said I need a light next to what I'm filming with? No, I'm bright. I'm dark. And you said I need a light next to what I'm filming with. Oh, it's me. I'm dark. Let me see. That's too much. But that should be a little bit better. Yeah, that should be a little bit better. But I think it's me. I'm dark. I just drain the light out the room. Right? Yeah, I drain the light out the room. But fulfillment, right? You get that satisfaction as soon as you have access to what it is you're chasing, right? Now, bring this into relationships. Early relational connection produces strong body coherence, emotional resonance, synchronized attention, novelty, right? Novelty, curiosity. This is early on in the relationship, right? The intensity of the novelty and the curiosity does not translate to staying power, right? Staying power is what happens when the novelty fades, right? And, you smell that person's, stinky socks or whatever the case may be. And you got to wrestle with challenges and, right? That's what happens. That's what happens with a proton and an electron, right? That's literally what gives a proton we're going to create hydrogen. Right? We're going to create hydrogen. Right? We're going to create hydrogen. Let me see. Is that this? We're going to create hydrogen. 1 proton, 1 electron. Right? 1 proton, 1 electron. And we're going to create our standing wave. Right? Standing wave in a bound wave cavity. Right? A standing wave in a bound wave cavity. Right? Here's what creates the identity of your relationship. Right? The identity of your relationship. Identity of your relationship. This is the most important part of the relationship. Any relationship. Not based on me. Based on science. Not based on me, based on science. The proton and the electron are the universal blueprint for relationships. What happens? What creates a rocky, what creates challenge for a proton and an electron? Outside brand new information that just popped up. Surprises. Outside brand new information that just popped into their life out of nowhere. That happens all the time. That's called a photon. A photon comes in and it shakes. It shakes the foundation of that relationship. It shakes the foundation of that relationship. Now, you got 2 possibilities. If the photon is high intensity enough, it could disrupt that atom. It can break that relationship. If the bond between the electron and the proton is strong enough, it's going to absorb that new information. It's going to absorb that challenge. It's going to wrestle with it for a second, and then it's going to release that energy. It's going to absorb it, vibrate a little bit, and let that go. That is how every single atom has an identity. That is where electron, atomic spectroscopy comes from, right? How an atom absorbs new information and what type of information each atom can absorb and how it re-radiates that energy. Because those things are quantified and happen the exact same way every single time. So every single time an atom absorbs a particular photon of a particular frequency, it has the same exact response. The same exact response every single time. So it becomes a signature. A signature. So each atom has its own fingerprint. Each atom has its own fingerprint. Every time it absorbs a photon, it releases that photon in the exact same pattern. But the pattern that each atom releases a photon, of how each atom releases a photon, is different for each atom. The reason it is different for each atom is because each atom has a different amount of electrons. Each atom has a different amount of protons. Each atom has a different amount of neutrons. So the standing wave density is different in each atom. So the vibration is different when the photon is absorbed. And so the vibration or the photon released or how it is released is also different. Oh, you in the dark over there? Okay. Yeah. See, and I can't even tell if you dark by your picture there. In fact, now that I look at it, it looked like you might have a bright light right there. But the thing is, I have to moderate my light. Like I have to be most people's YouTube that you see, they have brighter lights. They do have brighter lights. And I have another light right here that's off. And I got one right here that's off that I could make it brighter. But when I put on more lights, in fact, I got 3 lights right there that's not. But if I turn them lights on, because the whiteboard is reflective, it won't have the desired effect. Them lights will just hit the whiteboard and reflect back. And yeah, it's not a good effect. It's not a good effect. So I have to choose between whiteboard and extra lights. So this is like the happy medium. You get to see, the darkness, you know what I'm saying? And maybe if I put my hat, like that. This is why I wear my hat backwards though. You know what I'm saying? Because the brim creates a shadow too. So if I put my hat backwards, I get a little bit more. That's literally why I wear my hat backwards, because I get a little bit more light on my face.
In the beginning was the wave.
Resonate, see what I'm saying, levitate, resonate, nah, I mean I'm trying to elevate, resonate, words can't describe or articulate, resonate, feel me, celebrate. When they was partying and they was drinking, the gospel of music had me writing, thinking, music is sounds but it's also written words. Lego notes, fifths, halves, quarters, thirds. The periodic table of atoms. The language of the gods and wave patterns. The periodic table of atoms. E equals MC squared. The musical wave patterns. The facts are late. Synapse engaged. Perhaps a slave. Collapse away. The heart detonate. The tongue generate. The stone demonstrate. The mind meditate. Honestly, honor me for escaping poverty, turning limits to lemonade, noise into harmony, awfully. God is the music of my artery, the heart of me, the beat is the best part of me. God is the way, God is the music, God is the music. Without it I might lose it. God is the way, God is the music. Without God I might lose it, I might lose it. Resonate, see what I'm saying? Still hear 'em. Periodic table waves to the EnQi theorem. You never seen God, but you fear him. My thoughts don't make sounds, but I can still hear 'em. My thoughts don't make sounds, but I can still hear 'em. I don't know, understand the love words, but I feel 'em. My heart wild, my heart savage. That's why it's so easy to love bad habits. They block pain like punch. The music I can line below 20 hertz. I can feel it in my bones. Piezoelectric, we so electric. He gon' respect it. When they was partying and they was drinking, the gospel of music had me writing, thinking, music is sounds, but it's also written words.
In the beginning was the wave.
Periodic table of atoms, the language of the gods and wave patterns. The periodic table of atoms equals MC.
Share the video, hit the like, subscribe, Cash App, Super Chat, AmericanHealer.website, Amazon.
All right. Tika said, I was singing that song all night. Well, see, you was singing it, you was chanting it, and so you might have sent me a Anyway, early relational connection produces strong bodily coherence, emotional resonance, synchronized attention, novelty, mutual curiosity. The body wave is coherent and expansive. This feels good, not just emotionally, but physiologically. Breath deepens, posture opens, stress chemistry drops. These are real measurable shifts. At the same time, dopamine rises, not because love has been proven, but because the system detected salience. Something meaningful is happening. The organism marks this as important. The future lights up with possibility. This is where expectation begins. Dopamine does not encode reality, it encodes prediction. It builds an internal model. It builds an internal model that says if I move towards this, something valuable will happen again. If I move towards this, something valuable will happen again. That's desire. That's the seed of desire. This model is probabilistic. Probabilistic, based on probability. It is built from limited data points, amplified by novelty and coherence. The problem arises when this prediction is mistaken for the truth, right? When the expectation becomes concrete in your mind. People begin to believe that the way something feels now is evidence of how it will be later. They interpret the drive as destiny. Hunger becomes meaning. Anticipation becomes a promise. This is the same error that occurs in addiction. In fact, here's a real life example of this. What's that boy name that be with Kai Cenat? What's the boy name that be with Kai Cenat? Talib. He the one that's like protective over Kai Cenat. Anyway, they go to the awards for streamers. And they have a big night or whatever the case may be. Kai Cenat, wins a bunch of awards. But as we was talking about the other day, streaming on the internet is not a singular thing. So if you've ever taken the time to watch a Kai Cenat show, right, it's Kai Cenat along with his 5 or 10 other partners that are streaming with him. Then he may have 5 or 10 other streamers in the house that pop in for guest appearances. Then he may have X number of cameramen, editors, blah, 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 blah. Like he's got a huge staff of people to facilitate what he's got going on over there. But one of his main regular partners on the show, after the show, he hooks up with a girl, and the girl later on accuses him of grape, right? Grape juice. Now, from what's come out so far, who knows? But what's come out so far is that everything was cool up until you know, they in the hotel room chilling, and his actual girlfriend calls, and he takes the call with his girlfriend and kind of ignores, you know, like stiff arm shorty, like, yo, you know, be quiet. My girl is on the phone, hits her with the stiff arm, makes love to his girl over the phone, lies about what he got going on for the night, and then hang up with his girlfriend, and then try to return back to talking to shorty after they had already been intimate. And she flipped out. She flipped out. She flipped out, right? And the girl is also a streamer, right? So with limited facts, because I don't really watch what's going on or whatever the case may be, I might tap in with Caleb or Chase or Chloe and see what they got going on with, you know what I'm saying, or hear some peripheral. So I don't have all the facts. But what it seems like is that Kai Cenat had a girlfriend and they was making a lot of publicity. So this girl, who's also a streamer, was hooking up with the next best thing than Kai Cenat, which is Kai Cenat's partner. And because she a streamer and he a streamer, they was going to go and become a thing. When he took that call with his girlfriend, I think that crushed all of her expectation. And I think she felt like she would not have, you know, had intimate relations with him if she didn't think that it was a possibility that it could go into somewhere. Maybe not a relationship, but go somewhere, right? Because our people today are very transactional. So she had that moment with him because she was in expectation of what that intimacy would bring her in return. That was an investment she was intending to get a return on her investment. And when he picked up that phone and talked to his, immediately she was like, oh, wait a minute. So I'm not getting a return on my investment? What? So then she started hitting him up for money. You know, you got to pay me for that, and whoop, whoop. And then he got nasty, and she wound up accusing him of rape. And, you know, so there's that. I don't know if it's been situated or whatever, adjudicated. I don't know if more information's come out, but that's just what that looks like from what limited scanning I've been able to do. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest, both sides in the party is wrong. I'm not judging him for stepping out on his girlfriend or whatever the case may be. That's for him and his girlfriend to figure out. But I think if you do have a serious relationship, it's a gamble. You're gambling everything you're building over there for this real quick moment, right? And if you're going to take that kind of gamble, I'm older now. I'm not really throwing the dice right now. To me, throwing the dice may not be worth it, but I understand 20 and 25. You at the crap table. You throwing dice. Anytime you get the dice, you throwing the dice. I get it. Right? But if that's the case, you should start hedging your bets. Hedge your bet. Right? Sit down with this person and let them know, like, hey, listen, I get it. You want to go back to the room, whatever, woo. But listen, this is my actual situation. So I don't even know if you still going to want to go back to the room after you know what it really is, because this can't be nothing but a dance. That's what this is. So we go back to the room and we have an intimate dance. I'm going back to my main dance partner. Like we're not dancing again. We're not going to be dancing over time. We're not dancing on the internet. So I don't think that he properly walked into the situation, which is what created the potential for Chernobyl, right? Because he's a young man, and I'm sure he's not he's probably used to the notoriety, but I don't think he's used to the responsibility and all of the implications that come with the notoriety, right? That may take a little bit more time to get used to. You know what I'm saying? But in the course of the context of what we're just reading in this chapter, that is that expectation, right? She had an expectation based on something that wasn't bound in reality. Her expectation was based on looking at other people's relationships and how that translated to their online streaming business and what she could potentially do, and maybe how pretty she saw herself and attractive. And yeah, once I do this, he gonna be on. And that wasn't the case. He's in a relationship and definitely wasn't trying to trade his relationship for that, that situation. And so immediately, once she saw that her expectation was, she flipped. You know what I'm saying? She flipped. So that is important, especially if you're trying to build long-term value, right? You have to have those moments where you put it on the line and not necessarily gamble, but those times where you let the person know that you're investing long-term and not the one-night stand person, the person you going a distance with, what it's going to look like long-term. So you make sure that person is going to be around long-term. So as you're investing in the person, you understand like, okay, yeah, this investment is going to start paying off in 12 months, 24 months, and 36 months, or rather it'll continue to pay off 12, 26, 36 rather, 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, 10 years, decades in. Right? Similar to how long-term investors invest for stocks. You got day traders that just flip. You got day traders that just flip. Forex people, they flip. Then you have people like Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is investing for 50-year turnaround, a century turnaround. He's investing to get a potential position in the market. He wants to own a position in a market share. That's not a flip, right? That's long term. You know what I'm saying? He wants to own a tenth, a fourth, half of a whole entire market share, right? So he's invested in sodas and candies and all kinds of confectionery, sugary, whatever. Warren Buffett is in. That's where most of his money comes from. You know what I'm saying? So anyway. Right. Cab said he a trader. Now hold on, Cab, you a trader. What you talking about? You talking about financial obligations or you talking about overnight partners, Cab? We gotta watch you, man. You hot. What are you talking about, Cab? What you doing over there, Kev? Yeah, so don't get me twisted. Don't get me twisted. I am not with Kai Sanat.
You need that D, yeah. D with that blue magic. You need that D with that blue magic. You need that D with that blue magic. Theology in a bottle. Calcium electric, I'm magnetic. Your kidney electric, your liver magnetic. I'm talking kinetic. That deep put God in the flesh. That deep put God in the flesh. Say it. Electrons in your bones, stay high on that blue magic. Brain glow set, dopamine flow. Genes mode activate, orally lit. Fall, all spirit low, chakra, EnQi the doctor. Ancient physics streaming on the product. The ketamine and ancient chemistry, biblical fact. Bring it back from the scroll to the left, from the text to the trap, yeah. Cash up, super chats on crowd the G school. Yeah. Run it up. Cash up, super chats on crowd the G school. Hey, tap in. Let's go.
All right. So, experience. The first experience of an addictive substance feels amazing. Not because the substance is inherently wonderful, but because the system has never encountered that particular pattern of stimulation before. Dopamine spikes dramatically, assigning extreme salience. The body learns quickly this matters. Over time, pleasure declines, tolerance develops, mitochondria strain accumulates. The experience becomes flatter, sometimes even unpleasant, but guess what? The dopamine drive remains the same. This is the crackhead effect. This is the dope fiend effect. Yeah, we're going to get into it, but this is what this is, right? When you have drug addicts on hard drugs, right? Even sugar and certain things, the first time you have something, boom, right? They recreate the same thing that you deal with heroin and crack. They recreate that in the food experience. It's called the bliss point, right? The bliss point gives you that same high that you would experience with crack or dope or whatever the case may be. It gives you the highest level of dopamine and neurochemically induced pleasure from the consumption of whatever that type of food is, right? The bliss point. Now, biochemists come in, and the difference between big food company biochemists and maybe a culinary artist, right? A culinary artist is going to try to get you to reach that bliss point without regard for material. So you may go to a restaurant and you may have a $200 or $500 dessert. The dessert is very small because it's highly concentrated, right? Part of it is the restaurant and ambiance and all that, but it's highly concentrated. And when you taste it, it's supposed to blow you right out of your socks. Mind is blown. So you go back and you order again and again and again and again. And when we see it, people who can't afford a $500 dessert snack that's this small, we can't even imagine where's the rest of their portion? Like, how much did they pay $500 for that little that? What is it? We don't understand it. The people chasing that, standing out online, well, they don't stand out online. They get reservations and they might wait 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks for their reservation to get back in that restaurant to have that little tiny bite, that little morsel that they didn't pay $1 zillion for. They're chasing that high. They're chasing that high. And they're never going to get that same high again. The only thing that helps to recreate the high is the scarcity. You can only get that dessert from that chef preparing it that way. But in order to get that dessert from that chef prepared that same way, you have to wait a month, 2 months, 3 months for your reservation to come back around on the list. So that whole time, you bragging to people, telling you, oh, it was so delicious, it was crazy. And now you go back, you have another experience, or maybe because that was such a great experience, you try something different on the menu, or whatever the case may be. right? Now with a large corporation is different. Large corporation, they have biochemists that are working to create that same explosion. But the name of the game is to create that explosion for $2. Create that explosion for $5. Create that explosion for $10, right? Create that explosion maybe for 69 cents. Who knows, right? But create the explosion for as inexpensive as possible for the masses, right? Because with a large scale processed food company, they're trying to get a few pennies off of millions and millions of people. Small culinary artists in boutique restaurant is trying to get thousands and thousands of dollars off of maybe 20, 30, 40 customers. You don't need that many customers. When the dining experience is $5,000, and you might have 50 tables, and you can service those tables twice, you're making 5,000 times 50 twice a night. And you may be open 5 days a week. So it's 5 times 50, 5,000 times 50 times 2 times 5, right? And that's your number. You know what I'm saying? Now, what the staff costs and place and all of that's, but that's how the numbers, that's what the idea is, right? But the big expensive restaurant, bottom line, as well as, Nabisco's or Lay's potato chips or Kellogg's cereal or whatever, they're both chasing the same thing. They're both chasing creating the bliss moment. They're both trying to give you the dopamine blast, right? Which is becoming more competitive because of what's happening with social media, right? Social media is making everybody short attention span. It's making everybody short attention span monsters because people are chasing short form. Like they want that mindgasm in 45 seconds. So they can scroll to the next thing, 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 right? Which is crazy. It is literally rewiring people's brains. So there's active lawsuits and, government agencies, and they're wrestling with this, trying to figure this out. They're working on this same research we're working on, right? But people don't have access to it. I mean, they can't just go right to the Amazon.
In the beginning was the wave.
Right, so people do have access to it. All right. Paul said, check my phone. Man, it ain't even been a phone type of season. I gotta find them. I will find those phones today. I will make that a thing. Hold up. Kev, you just said you was a traitor. Kev is a trader and a culinary artist. Appreciate the super chat, though, Paul. I definitely appreciate that super chat. All right. So over time, pleasure declines, tolerance develops to the stimulus, right? Mitochondria which is involved in every stimulus. Mitochondrial behavior is involved in every stimulus. In fact, your behavior trains your mitochondria. So your mitochondria help keep addictions going after you develop them. All right. So over time, though, the experience, the pleasure you derive from it goes down, but you keep the desire because you're not chasing the actual item. You're chasing the first high. You're chasing the first high from the first time you had Oreos and milk, the first time you got high, or you smoked a cigarette, or you drank some liquor, or you ate some triple velvet chocolate, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like you're looking for that first feeling. In relationships, the pattern is eerily similar. Early emotional coherence creates strong body waves. Dopamine marks the connection as important. The mind builds a story. This is spatial. This means something. This is what I've been waiting for, right? This is what your brain is saying. This is what your mind is saying. This is special. This means something. This is what I've been waiting for. Expectations form. Not consciously, but they're forming. Time passes. Novelty fades. Now, in the young man from Kaiser Knott's team, his example, that situation didn't have a chance to evolve. That evolved very quickly. They had their intimate action. They was watching a little Netflix and chill. And then his girlfriend called, and it got nasty very quickly. Right? Nasty very quickly. But outside that, in normal situations, over time, the novelty fades, stress enters, differences emerge, the shared wave function changes. Resonance requires maintenance rather than happening automatically. The field weakens and the feelings change. The feel is the feel. The feel is the feel. If the feel is strong, the feelings are strong. The feel is the feel. But the expectation remains. This is where suffering comes in. The person is no longer responding to the current relational state. They are responding to a dopamine conditioned future that was never guaranteed. They are chasing an internal prediction, not an external reality. This creates a specific type of hunger, one that feels emotional but behaves like addiction, right? If I could just get that feeling back, right? If they could just be how they was before, if we could just return to that version, right? This is how you may mess up, and a knight may swoop in and snatch your queen, right? Because things get different. Conditions change. Novelty, uncertainty, low load, high resonance. Those are very specific ingredients. These determine your body waves, your feelings, the system. The system. This is how sometimes people outgrow people, right? I've had this scenario with me because I study, I read a lot, and I grow fast mentally, right? I grow fast mentally, and so that happens. That happens. For instance, most of my children, people know I have a bunch of children. They assume that I'm a Rolling Stone. I have a bunch of children with a bunch of different. No, I have most of my children with one lady. When we met, we were in high school, right? At the time that we met, I was very much a street guy, right? I don't think that I saw much for myself in the future outside of the street, or maybe, music. And so I don't think that she could have seen anything else for me either than the street or music. And that's what she signed up for. But I'm changing very rapidly. I begin to start studying. I begin to start getting rid of vices. And as this is happening, the relationship is getting more and more strained. More and more strained. And we were able to weather a lot of indifference, right? A lot of indifference because we have been making babies, right? So the babies create stability in the wave, even when the two nodes, even when the two initial traveling wave, even when it's getting, the more things you have to anchor, will create some stability. And sometimes that's a plus, sometimes that's a minus, right? Sometimes it's a plus, sometimes it's a minus. I think the final nail in the straw, though, was Amber's situation. I had a whole, and I don't think anybody could have trusted me in that time. I would not have trusted me in that time with what I was trying to do, right? If doctors are saying her neck and spine is broken and it can't be healed, like, I don't have a reference point that says otherwise, so I got to go along with what these people say. And here goes somebody that don't know, well, at least I don't think this person knows anything, saying, hey, like, if you knew better than them, then you'd be. So, but I think that probably was the final nail in the coffin in terms of just, we're on two different trajectories. We're on two different trajectories. And from that point going forward, her man selection was like the guy I was in high school. She continued to look for that guy. You know what I'm saying? Where my mind went somewhere else, right? My mind is constantly going somewhere else, right? That is the thing about reading and studying. When you study, you are, in fact, changing your mind, not arbitrarily and not temporarily. You are literally changing your mind forever. Anytime you consume new information, that changes your mind. It changes your parameters. It changes the way you view things. So I was constantly growing, you know what I'm saying? To the point where me in the street was like oil and water. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not even trying to be, I don't even want to be in places where street things can happen. I'm like, hold up, I got too many children I can't throw them type of dice. You know what I'm saying? Because even if I'm not taking part in the street, which is, the beginning to getting out of the street, if you're still in them places and you still have those ties, something could happen that, you would be a part of, or something can happen to you because you're there. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, but that's how it goes. Sometimes people grow out of relationships, and it may not be anybody's fault, right? It may not be anybody's fault, right? Because you're going this way, they're going that way. That's why they're traveling waves. Traveling waves come together and create standing waves. And while those waves are in resonance, right, there's stability. When it breaks down, guess what? That standing wave turns back into traveling waves. That is the nature of our universe, right? And some traveling waves that form standing waves, those standing waves last a long time. They last a long time. They become the foundation maybe for wave cavities, right? And some are transient. They really, like the Kai Cenat, they formed a standing wave for about 25, 35 minutes. Then his girlfriend called. Oh, man. Anyway, So that's not romance, right? That's motivational inertia. Dopamine is indifferent to truth. It cares about reinforcement history. Once it has tagged something as important, it will continue to orient behavior toward it until new learning occurs or the system collapses from exhaustion. This is why people stay in relationships that no longer nourish them. This is why they chase partners who are emotionally unavailable. This is why they make mistakes of intensity for compatibility, right? The sex is good, right? So they assume that the relationship is going to be good because they have sexual chemistry. They believe they have relationship chemistry. No. Relationship chemistry happens in between your ears. Relationship chemistry happens in between your ears, in the temple, right? You have two temples. The temple is in between your ears, right? The temple actually has a location, right? The temple actually has a location right here, right? How stimulated does the person get you here, right? This is what makes all the difference. This is what makes all the difference because the mind does not fade. The mind never fades. The mind doesn't fade. Your mind doesn't age. None of that. Your mind does not fade. Your mind does not age. Your mind is immortal. Your mind is immortal. Right? Your mind is immortal. As long as it has something to tag on to. As long as it has something to tag on to. Your mind is a field. Your brain accesses the field, but is not the field itself. Right? How do we know this? In a scientific sense. How do we know this in a scientific sense? Very simple. People play football. Hut, boom. They get hit hard in the head. What happens? Temporary amnesia. Temporary amnesia brought on by the inflammation from the contact. What happens once the inflammation is gone? Once the inflammation is gone, as long as the structures remain intact, the inflammation's gone, they go back to work. All the information is there. All the information is there. Right? Just like having a hard drive, right? Something can go wrong with your hard drive. You can take that hard drive to go get that hard drive fixed. All your information is there, right? Because the information is electric. The information is magnetic. The information is light-based. The information is field-based. The actual matter, the flesh, the hardware, the metal, the plastic, those are things that allow you to access that information, right? But it is not the information itself. Information is field-based, right? Information is field-based. This is why people record their mind. They record their thoughts so that a part of them lives forever, right? This is why we know Jesus or Osiris or whoever, because they live in our minds and our hearts, right? So whether their author became immortal by creating those characters and stories, or whether these were actual people that walked around and their actions turned into legendary stories or not, their immortality comes from the retelling of the stories, the retelling, the keeping the idea alive, right? And feeding energy into the idea and basing action loaded with energy in the ideas and the concepts, which creates manifestation, right? Creation in that blueprint, in the image and likeness of, right? When we start forgetting things, usually, like if we're talking about Alzheimer, dementia, and that kind of stuff, that is brain. That is not the mind. That is the brain. Parts of your brain are shriveling, right? Parts of your brain are becoming atrophied. Parts of your brain are getting loaded with spent proteins. You may have viral activity creating localized inflammation in specific spaces. You may have loss of pigment in specific areas, right? So there are specific problems in the actual flesh of the brain that is limiting the brain's ability to access the memory. How do we know that to be a fact? Because there are specific practices, protocols, natural, medicinal, surgical, that have fixed or at least temporarily provided a fix to those problems. And then the memory is always there. Boom. So as soon as the person takes the medication, they now have their memory back. Or as soon as they come out of the surgery, a couple of weeks later, they have their memory back. Or as soon as the person changes their diet or incorporates the herb or the exercise or some mixture of herb, medicine, exercise, surgery, diet, whatever, the memory comes back. It's not like the memory was ever lost. It's just the access to it, right? We can't, if I pick up a hard drive, right? If I pick up a hard drive, here's a hard drive, right? Here's a hard drive. I can't access this information like this. Like I can't just like, boop, just know it. You know what I'm saying? Just because I have it in my hand, I can't just access this information, right? The information on this hard drive can only be accessed if I plug it into, right, some sort of system, right? So it has to be plugged into a system. And so, like our mind, right, our brain is that medium of processing, right? And so the processor is broke, but not necessarily the hard drive. You know what I'm saying? Another example, you spill water in your laptop. If you spill water in your laptop is done. Your laptop is done. You can take your laptop to a shop. They can repair your laptop. They're going to open it up and take out whatever little circuits is fried, whoop, pop some new ones in. And if that water didn't get into the memory, you good. When you turn back on your laptop with the new parts, poof, all your information is there, right? The reason why all your information is there is because your information was stored in the hard drive and in electrical bits and magnetic moments and, you know, but the RAM and the processor and the computer system was down, so you didn't have access to the info, right? As soon as you fix the computer, you got access to the info again. So that's really all it is. Access to the information, right? And so they've been able to document a good bit of the changes that takes place over time, right? And we talk about a lot of that in the book. The Dope Game book, aka the neuromelanin disease theory, right? We talk about a lot of those things in that book. Go get that book, right? Go get that book, right? All right. Good feelings create drive, but drive does not guarantee goodness. The distinction is rarely taught. which leaves people vulnerable to building entire identities, futures, and self-worth around early emotional states. When those states change, as they inevitably do, the person experiences not just disappointment, but disorientation, right? This is what would lead to somebody yelling out grape and creating those false types of charges, right? The internal compass was calibrated on dopamine, not structure. This also explains why people escalate expectation when they feel strongly. Strong feelings feel like information. The body is coherent, so the mind assumes meaning. But coherence is a state, not a prophecy. In physics terms, dopamine biases the probability distribution of the shared wave function. In physics terms, dopamine biases the probability distribution of the shared wave function. It does not collapse it into truth. It makes certain futures feel more likely, right? So get that probability book, right? The Ma'at book, right? It makes certain probabilities feel more likely, more compelling, right? But you have to do the work in real time outside of expectation to make certain probabilities become actuality. This is why even the Bible says faith without works is dead. Because you have to do the work every day and be that consistent. You got to be that consistent source of whatever that frequency of attraction is to maintain that standing wave. When people confuse drive or desire with truth, they stop checking the alignment. They stop observing the resonance. They stop asking whether the system is actually working. They assume it must because it feels important. This is how expectation outruns reality. Once expectation hardens, control often follows. People try to force the relationship to conform to the internal prediction. They push for reassurance, closeness, commitment, sameness, not because those things are wrong, but because dopamine is demanding fulfillment immediately. Right? Immediately. It's on the time schedule. When reality resists, anxiety rises. Control behaviors appear. The field destabilizes. This is the relational version of tolerance escalation. The system is trying to recapture a state by increasing intensity rather than restoring coherence. It confuses more desire with resonance, right? Passion for resonance. Love does not run on dopamine alone. Dopamine is necessary. It creates motivation, curiosity, pursuit, right? That's why you're never supposed to know everything about your partner. You got to stay a little curious. You got to stay a little curious to keep that drive, to keep that wanting to impress. That's very important, right? And this doesn't have to be a sexual partner. This can be your business partners. This can be your teammates on your basketball team, right? This is the situation going on with my Lakers right now. My Lakers don't have that. My Lakers is looking crazy right now. My Lakers is looking crazy right now. And it's because the owners have decided that the team belongs to Luka Doncic. The Laker ownership has decided the team belongs to Luka Doncic. And so LeBron is like, okay, great. Woo, man. Because in case y'all didn't know, I'm 6,777 years old. So, man, I am glad y'all took that responsibility off me. Go on ahead, Luka, with your bad self. And make sure that you guard the toughest player to guard every night. Make sure you put him on. Yeah. You getting that paycheck, right? Yeah, you get on. Yeah. So whenever the Lakers win, the media from the sports, they congratulate Luka Doncic. The problem is, whenever the Lakers lose, they say, man, LeBron is not playing any defense. And what does LeBron have to do to lead the Lakers back into a winning? LeBron's got to fix this. And LeBron. And he like, ho. If this is Luka team when we win, this got to be Luka team when we lose. Yeah, that's how that goes when you're the franchise player. You get the big check because you take the responsibility. And usually the responsibility is the complaint. You're going to get 9 complaints for every compliment. That's literally what a supervisor's for, a manager's for, a CEO is for. They don't own companies. They're there to deal with customer complaints. That's what the CEO is there for, to take the heat. He's not getting the profit. The profit is going to the stockholders. They're getting the dividends. The CEO is there to take the heat. So the more big the company, the larger the company, the more intense the scrutiny and all that. Yeah, they got somebody for that. The people that own them companies ain't trying to take all that scrutiny. Something happens at the airline. The people that own the airline, they're not firing themselves. No, they need somebody that's the person that's going to take the heat so they can fire that person and then come on the news and say, okay, we held someone responsible. My bad. Yeah. We open up next week. Yeah, business as usual. Same like in the neighborhood, right? If somebody gets stabbed in a bar, right? Or somebody gets shot at a nightclub, they don't shut the bar down or the club down. They wait a week and then you see a sign out front. Open under new management. The sign never says open under new ownership. It never says open under new ownership because the same people that owned it when somebody got stabbed to death, the same people that owned it when somebody got shot, yeah, they still own it. They just gonna fire whoever was the boss, quote unquote. They wasn't really the boss. They was just the boss of the other employees. They're gonna fire that person and maybe a few other people, depending on how big the mess is, and stick somebody else in there and then get back to work and get my money back. Yeah, get that club back open. We got to sell that liquor. Get that bar back open. We got to sell them drinks. Yeah. It never says open under new ownership. It always says open under new management. Just had a baby. Can she have some of that blue magic? Trying to get her swelling down in her feet and legs. That is not a super chat question. Yeah, that is not a super chat question. We got to figure out what the swelling in the feet and legs is. That may not be a job for Blue Magic. Yeah. Yeah, normally you can make a smoothie and water down a smoothie or something like that. But, when the baby's only days old, they really should just be having the breasts. They should just really be having the breasts. The baby's only days old. The baby should be on the breasts. Now, mom can be on some Blue Magic. Mom should be on Blue Magic. Baby should be on breasts. We got swelling in legs and feet. You got some other things that you got to figure out. Oh, I'm talking about for mom. Yeah. Well, that might be some leftover inflammation. If she had preeclampsia or whatever the case may be, it could be a couple different things. But that's not anything to be worried about. You out of the water. Yeah, you out of the water. If baby came out good and mom came out at all, you good. Yeah. Long as mom's still alive and baby is healthy, You Gucci. Everything can be worked out from there. Yeah. You good. You good. Yeah, your fear is, yeah, your fear when baby come out and mom's still alive, baby alive, 10 fingers, 10 toes, everything is in order. That's your Usa moment. That's when you, right? So if you have already had your baby, congratulations, and relax. That's what the cigar originally was for, right? So I know that's not like traditional now. People don't smoke a cigar when they have a baby now, but the cigar was just really to signify your breather, right? Because the man deals with all of the anxiety and the stress, right? The woman is traditionally driving him crazy, and then he's driving himself crazy to protect, provide, feed, and woo, woo, woo. So that moment traditionally was the moment like, okay, whew, all right, God. Now I just got to worry about sandwiches and shoes. You know what I'm saying? Sandwiches and shoes from here on out. I got to feed them and clothe them. I'm good. We alive. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. But as long as you had, you know, a good, you know, the baby's here, mom's still here, everything is good in terms of that. Swelling is not necessarily an issue, you know, especially once she gets back to moving around. Usually once she gets back to moving around and, you know, moving like how she's used to, because sometimes swelling can develop. I mean, it's a bunch of different reasons, but sometimes it develops just because the pregnancy incapacitates them to an extent, and not maybe fully bedridden or whatever the case may be, although some pregnancies do that, but just moving less than their body's accustomed to, right? So even a super fit person, right, super fit woman, she gets pregnant, she has a baby, she might still be relatively fit, but the fact that she's no longer 2-3 hours in the gym with this and that or 10,000 steps, her body's not used to that level of sedentary, you know, so it may take a little minute. Or, you know, her body may be weirded out because now it has to store fluid for baby, right? So sometimes the brain, you know, wires can get crossed, you know what I'm saying? Because swelling can come from edema sometimes, and, you know, just so it could be a bunch of different stuff, but I don't think you got anything to panic about. Yeah. See, 40-hour labor. Come on. That 40-hour labor is not real. 40-hour labor is not real. Yeah. Sometimes in rare instances, you know what I'm saying, that water break, and then you got 40 hours to, but usually it's because you had another 20 hours. You had a whole nother day. You had another day where you could have been at the crib. And you went in the hospital early because she was panicking and you was panicking. Yeah. So I've had that situation early on with babies. You know what I'm saying? I've experienced everything with babies the hard way. You know, fortunately they all came out the good, you know, they all came out right. But yeah, we did everything. I done had all kind of experiences. Even what's that thing that the women used to drink back in the days? I done did that once or twice. Well, not me, but not X-Lax, but whatever it is to make you poop. You know what I'm saying? When a woman is pregnant, it'll cause contractions. You know what I'm saying? But it might just be fake contractions because you didn't drink the whatever, and now you got contractions. You go in the hospital, you poop a whole lot, and then the contractions go down. Or, you know, you might be getting a little action. You know, you might be doing a little too much, little action. You know, you might be having some action, and that can create fake contractions or just a whole bunch of stuff can go on. But the 40 hours is over. That's forget all that. Look, the 40 hours is gone. So now, right, you can breathe. Yeah, you can breathe. Yeah. Now you can breathe. And 40 hours is hell on your cortisol and your stress and all that. You need a nap. You need a nap. Yeah, that's what you need. You need a nap. That's what you need. You need a nap. Yeah, you need to forget about her and the baby for you need a good 6-hour window where you're not thinking about her and the baby. Yeah, you need a bath, like you're a baby. You need a bath with some Epsom salt in it. Maybe a little scented candle or something, or you put a little, some oils or something in the bath. Take you a nice long bath, hour, 2 hours, maybe 3, go crazy. And then get out the bath and go to sleep. Don't answer your phone. Don't look at the phone. Go to sleep and try to sleep off that 40-hour experience because you still running on cortisol. Yeah, if you coming off that 40 hours and you hit me with a super chat right now talking about her legs and feet swollen, you still in the labor. You need a nap. Yeah, you need a nap because her and the baby, they're going to need you. They're going to need you, right? You need to take advantage of this little small window because right now, your baby is going to be cool. Baby is cool for a little while. Baby's amazing for a little while. For a little while. Yeah, for a little while. You know what I'm saying? And you start thinking you special. You're going to start thinking you special. Like, no, our baby is good. No, the baby just goes to sleep and don't cry. No, our baby is amazing. This blah, 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 yeah. Give it a minute. Give it a minute. So right now, while you got the opportunity, you need a nap. Yeah, you need a nap. Don't worry about mom. Because however tired and stressed out she thinks she is right now, she's in her USA moment. She done ran the race. Now, they done pull over sometime when you're in the race. They got to change tires. They pull into the pit stop. She in the pit stop right now. She in the pit stop. She got to change tires and get her butt back out there on the racetrack. Yeah, because she got the feeding the baby from your breast is crazy. Because it's not just a matter of food being produced, but that food is like your energy and it drains you. And sometimes it's painful. Baby might have teeth early. Who knows what? You know what I'm saying? So that breastfeeding process is crazy, but it's a requirement. She has, she needs to do it. If y'all want your baby to be fully healthy, you know what I'm saying? There's no substitute for breast milk. So yeah, she need to take advantage of this little pit stop, but you even more, because you're going to get all the flack from her and the baby, and even from family, like other ladies in the family. If your mama's still around, sisters, aunties, whatever, they're going to be on you, on your bumper. Yeah, like, oh, you ain't taking care, you ain't making sure, you ain't. So you need a nap. Yeah, you need a nap. Anyway. Yeah. Let's get back to work. Man. We didn't help with a lot of babies. Melanin versus diabetes, man. We got a little nation. All right. In healthy relationships, dopamine gradually hands off leadership to slower stabilizing systems. Expectation softens into trust, right? Not fake trust. Right? Not fake trust. Let me give you an example of fake trust. Here's fake trust in a relationship, right? Oh, I definitely. No. That's not deflecting. That's yeah. This is a love class, and you're talking about a baby. That's absolutely a part of the program. Yeah, that is absolutely a part of the program. That is definitely not a deflection. But here's an example of fake trust, right? Here's fake trust. If you saw the movie New Jack City, If you saw the movie New Jack City, that is the best example of real trust versus fake trust that I can ever give you. Right? If you haven't seen the movie New Jack City is a drug dealer movie where you have Ice-T playing a cop, undercover cop. You have Wesley Snipes as a drug dealer. And then you have Chris Rock playing a crackhead. Ice-T early on, like, locks up Chris Rock and saves him and, you know, cleans him up from being a drug addict, right? So Chris Rock feel like he owe Ice-T. Ice-T feel like Chris Rock owe Ice-T. So him and his officers, well, not necessarily him, but his officers, they come up with this idea, whatever, to send Chris Rock into Wesley Snipes' organization undercover to get evidence so they could lock up Wesley Snipes. Now, fake trust. Fake trust is where you trust that a crackhead will go into a crack den and not smoke crack. That is fake trust, because you're trusting somebody to do something that they have not demonstrated that they actually do. Real trust would be trusting and knowing for sure that if you put a crackhead into a room with unlimited amounts of crack, no matter how long it's been since the last time they smoked, oh, they definitely gonna smoke. They're gonna have a little bit of that crack. If I go 6 months, if I go 12 months with no Oreo cookies, and all of a sudden there's a pack of Oreo cookies on my bed, I'm going to wrestle with it. The urge is going to pop in. I'm going to start wrestling with it. Yeah, I'm going to start wrestling with it. I might have me 1 or 2 of them Oreos. I might have 1 or 2 of them Oreos. Now, let's say, I don't know, a half a gallon of vanilla almond milk, cold, freezing, you know, like half cold, half freezing. All also just, man, it's right there on my bed too. Woo! It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. Right? So trust would be, he's gonna have some of them. He's gonna have some of them Oreos and some of that milk. Now, if I don't, that's demonstrating a new pattern of behavior. That's unexpected behavior, right? What should be expected is for me to do what I've demonstrated that I do, right? LeBron James has been scoring 25 points a game since he started in the NBA. So tomorrow night or the next night, whenever they have their next game, it's safe to say he's going to score around 25 points. 23, 27, 26, 22, 30. He's going to be right in there, right around 25. In his career, he's only scored less than 10 points, I think like 3 or 4 times. Safe to say he's going to score around 25 points. I can trust him to do that. Even if he messes up from time to time, this is what he do. 80 times a year. They got 80 games a season. Of the games that he plays, 99% of those games, he scores 25 points a game. He's been doing that for 22 seasons already. We can trust he's going to continue to do that. Right? Now, if he decides to score 67 points, that's just as much of an anomaly as him scoring 10 points. Because see, when we don't know him to do that, we don't know him to do that. That's not what he do. Right? So if I ignore the cookies, that's a new pattern being set. Right? So now going forward, since I've demonstrated that I can have the cookies, the cold milk and all that opened up right there on my bed and not pay no attention to it, now you can start to say, oh, we'll trust that he won't indulge because when he was in that situation before, he didn't indulge. So we don't have no reason to believe, whoop, right? So trust has to be based on established patterns of interaction and response. Just like we talked about how atoms absorb photons. Every time they absorb the photon, they respond in the exact same pattern. This is why each response is unique to each atom. So each atom can be identified by its response to light, which is how, when you get to a certain level, this is how atoms are identified. They actually have machines that are not traditional microscopes. They're not based on convex lenses. They're based on shooting light and capturing. It's almost like special cameras. They're not really microscopes anymore, right? They're flashing light and recording the results of the flashed light on the substance. And then they're analyzing the result from the picture, the snapshot of the flashed light on the substance. Because based on what is re-radiated, they can say, oh, well, that's one atom of calcium, that's one atom of iron, that's one atom of this, of that, or the other, because each one's response is individual and unique, right? Pause just in case. Yeah. I might need a pause. 8 games, less than 10 points. That's crazy. And 6 of those games was in his rookie season, right? So 21 seasons, he's done that twice. In 21 seasons, he's done that twice. You know what I'm saying? So that's really like 99.99% of the time. You know what I'm saying? He's going to score in that box, right? No. I'll stick with my 99% of the time because we got to go the other way too. You know, he has some 40-point games, or he might have hit a 50 ball here and there, right? But 99% of the time, it's going to be right in there, right between 22, 28, you know, right between 20 and 30 points. That's going to be his window. All right. This time is ticking. All right. So, the crackhead dope fiend effect, chasing a state that cannot reoccur. This is why losing your virginity is important. Now, I know we just talked about childbirth, so it's going to be a while before you got to discuss losing virginity with these babies. But you need to discuss losing virginity with your babies. Losing virginity creates an amazing pattern that shows up in a variety of ways, right? How you lose your virginity creates a pattern. You can break the pattern and rewrite the pattern, but how you lose your virginity is important. This is why, you know, taking certain things from children is one of the most heinous crimes, right? And this is why sometimes when you do that to a child, that child grows up and repeats that behavior because you have created a pattern with that child. Now, me, I lost my virginity to my best friend at the time, right? So that's what I look for in a girl, right? So my relationships work. I have the longest relationships with girls that, or women rather, that we have similar interests, right? I need that friend vibe, right? That friend vibe has staying power for me. And it may go back to how I lost my virginity. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you lost your virginity with some chick you just met, and it was transactional, you may find yourself having or a guy you just met, and it was quick and transactional, whatever. You may have a problem with finding transactional situations. You know what I'm saying? But if the first time you lost your virginity, you know what I'm saying, or the only time, the first time you had sex rather, was with somebody that you already had a long-term relationship with, unconsciously, you'll be looking, that's your thing. You'll have a bunch of long-term relationships. If not one or two, because you might still be in that long-term relationship, but that sets the programming, right? That sets the programming. And the thing is the same for business models, right? The thing is the same for business models. The first time you have a good lick, right? The first time you have a good lick in business, you tend to do things whatever that way is, right? Doesn't matter what the business is, whether you were selling newspapers or candy, delivering messages, selling shakes, smoothies, hair salon, car wash, whatever it was that produced your first good day of business. You invested $1 and got back 5, or you invested $1 and got back 10. Whatever shortcomings you had in that process, whatever you did right in that process is now your model as you move forward. And most people will close their mind to new ideas because I already know how to do what I know how to do, because I already done did what you tried to tell me because I done did. Yeah, that was cool. You had some success. But if you want to continue, you got to learn some new tricks along the way, right? And you may have to get rid of some practices that worked in that model because they may not work over here. And some stuff that didn't work over there may actually be what, right? And same thing with relationships, right? Some stuff that worked in your past relationship may not work in your new one. Some stuff that didn't work in your old one may be the main substance of your new one. In fact, it may be why your new one formed, because you couldn't do these things with this partner, right? Yeah. Now, see, I don't know what the Lakers was thinking, because the relationship with Bron and AD was good. The problem with AD was that he couldn't get AD to show up because he was injured all the time. Now, Luka, not injured, but he doesn't play defense. AD was a defense specialist. So LeBron is in like an abusive relationship now. he in an abusive relationship now. Luka and the Lakers are now expecting LeBron to play the 25-year-old LeBron defense because Luka don't play no defense. And LeBron is playing even less defense in protest. LeBron is playing less defense than he's even capable of right now, because he's like, we're not going into the postseason. If y'all think, I'm going to just let y'all know right now, this is why he ain't signed no contract. He's a free agent, a free agent, not a free agent like this is last contract. No. After this season is over, he can go home and not play anymore, or he can sign up to wherever he want to go. He can make his own decision, right? So that's why he made that liquor commercial trolling everybody saying, I got a decision coming up, because at the end of this season, he has a decision coming up, right? And it's not getting traded or none of that. He can walk on to any team that he wants to walk on to and accept any pay. He can go to the Oklahoma Thunder and play for $2 a season. He can go play with Steph Curry and play for $10 a season. He can play for whatever he want to play for. He could take veteran minimum or whatever. He could take anything and go wherever he wants to go because he's not contractually bound, right? So that'll be interesting to see at the end of the season, with everything going on, what he decides to do. You know what I'm saying? Now, he's tied to LA, so he might want to stay out west. But I don't know if that means the Lakers, right? He might want to go OKC. He might want to go to OKC. Or he might want to go to play with Steph. I think that's highly marketable. I think that's highly marketable, and the smartest thing for LeBron to do is go play with Steph, because LeBron and Steph is both from Akron. So them being on the same team is highly marketable. That is highly marketable. I don't know if they're going to win a championship. That'll probably be the oldest team in basketball history, but that's highly marketable, LeBron and Steph. And you may get some other folks that may want to come over there just because LeBron and Steph teamed up. So it could cause chaos over the summer. If LeBron decides to go to Golden State, that could cause chaos. And LeBron likes attention, so I could see that happening. I can see that happening. Yeah, I can see that happening.
In the beginning was the wave.
Resonate, resonate, see what I'm saying, levitate, resonate, resonate, nah, I mean I'm trying to elevate. Resonate, resonate, words can't describe or articulate. Resonate, resonate, feel me, celebrate. When they was partying and they was drinking, the gospel of music had me right and thinking. Music is sounds, but it's also written words. Lego notes, fifths, halves, quarters, thirds. The periodic table of atoms, the language of the gods and wave patterns. The periodic table of atoms, E equals MC squared. The musical wave patterns, the facts are late. Synapse engaged, perhaps a slave. Collapse away, the heart detonate, the tongue generate, the stone demonstrate, the mind meditate. Honestly, honor me for escaping poverty, turning lemons to lemonade, noise into harmony. Awfully, God is the music of my artery, the heart of me. The beat is the best part of me. God is the way, God is the music, God is the music. Without it, I might lose it. God is the way, God is the music. Without God, I might lose it. I might lose it. Resonate, resonate. See what I'm saying? Still hear 'em. Periodic table waves to the EnQi theorem. You never seen God, but you fear him. My thoughts don't make sounds, but I can still hear 'em. My thoughts don't make sounds, but I can still hear 'em. I don't know, understand the love words, but I feel 'em. My heart wild, my heart savage. That's why it's so easy to love bad habits. They block pain like perks. The music alkaline below 20 hertz. I can feel it in my bones. Peace so electric, we so electric. He gon' respect it. When they was partying and they was drinking, the gospel of music had me right and thinking. Music is sounds, but it's also written words. Lego notes, fifths, halves, quarters, thirds.
In the beginning was the wave.
Periodic table of atoms, the language of the gods and wave patterns. The periodic table of atoms equals MC.
Share the video, hit the like, subscribe, Cash App, Super Chat, AmericanHealer.website, Amazon.
Rolling through the sand like a thought in disguise. The scarab spins truth where the cosmos collide. Energy whispers, it never says goodbye. The Beatles crawl, the Beatles rise.
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.
Sort of burst the chaos, yet the chaos rise. My name Beatles, Beatles, Beatles. Over and over, spinning the world in the grip of their shoulders. Beatles, Beatles, Beatles. Under and over, rolling through time till the blackness is sober. The heat fades lower, the order begins. The stillness so perfect, it hums from
Go to AmericanHealer.website now. Get the tools for health and inspiration the way God intended.